pleasure of having John McDonnell. As I said, many regard him as the great power behind the Jeremy Corbyn throne. Very good to see you again this morning. Jeremy Corbyn calling for an outbreak of peace and love in your party. Now, you've come clean that you are seen as perhaps the more abrasive member of his team. Are you going to suddenly become soft and cuddly?
The position we're putting is that, look, we think there might be a general election at any point. Theresa May has said that she's not going to call an early election, but we can't trust her on that. So we've got to come together, we've got to unite, and we've got to be seen now very quickly as a government in waiting. And that means putting differences behind us.
But you have talked in the past about your sharp elbows. You said it was one reason why you couldn't really be Labour leader.
That's right.
But nonetheless, how happy are you putting those elbows in?
Well, that's what we've been doing all the way through. Even in the leadership campaign, at times we've got a bit vituperative. But what we've said is, look, harsh words are said in campaigns like that. What's said on tour remains on tour. We'll move on now. And the spirit at the conference at the moment is exactly that. People just want to get on with the job. I'm
talking about vituperative. You'll have seen Esther is here. You said some pretty harsh things about her. You called her a stain on humanity, and you repeated this call to have her lynched. Do you want to sort of take some of that back and apologise? Because it's not the kind of language you sort of approve of, is it?
I simply reported what was shouted out at a public meeting.
That stain on humanity thing wasn't reported. Well, that was you in the House of Commons,
That was, and I was angry. I was angry.
But is that the kind of language that
let me
should be
finish.
using?
Sometimes you need to express honest anger, and that was about what this last government was doing to people with disabilities, and it was appalling, to be frank. And sometimes it is better to be honest with people about how you feel. Now, at times, in Parliament in particular, it means using strong language, but actually, if it reflects your honest views, I think it's better to be honest than it is to be in any ways deceptive in any way.
So just to be absolutely clear, you reserve the right, not necessarily about her, but to use that kind of language in future?
I think it's about making sure you express your views honestly and fairly as well. That's the most important thing. People have had enough of spin and triangulation. What they want is politicians who speak the truth and do express themselves, but there has to be an element of expressing yourself in language which doesn't go too far. I accept that, and occasionally I've gone too far, and I've admitted that. But at the same time now, we've got to be straight with one another. We can't have this, people can't trust whatever a politician says because they're always saying one thing and doing another. I think what people want, and that's exactly why people have voted for Jeremy, is what you get is what you see. Straightforward, honest politics.
So this carries quite big implications for your own party. You're looking for unity, but presumably it doesn't mean where your MPs have an honest disagreement with you or Jeremy Corbyn that you expect them to shut up. So you will tolerate disagreements on policy, will you?
Of course, we're a democratic party. And you get the best decisions that way. Harold Wilson, I look back on some of the last Labour administrations. You look at Attlee, you look at Harold Wilson. Harold Wilson constructed a shadow cabinet of left, right and centre. It was rumbustious at times because you had really big characters within it. But actually, I think as a result of that, they came up with better decision-making.
So the control freakery of the Blair-Brown years, you're not going to try and replicate that?
In some ways, I think, I have a lot of time for what New Labour did, the real success that they had. But sometimes, if you don't allow that democratic debate, you make the wrong decisions. And I think that's what happened under New Labour in a few instances. The most important thing now, we have this expression in the Labour Party about comradely. It's important that we do it in a comradely way, so it's a debate around the policies. It's not about individuals or personalities, anything like that. And I think that's what people want now.
Now, a number of the more famous of your MPs, many would call them the heavy hitters, people like Yvette Cooper, who's coming on the programme in a minute, Chuka Ramuna, for example, they have said that they would not put themselves forward for shadow cabinet positions. Is that a problem?
Well, it's a shame. Tristan's the same. It's a shame. I'd welcome them back. I'd welcome them back tomorrow. But take Yvette. She didn't want to serve in shadow cabinet on the front bench, but what she's done is she's led on an issue on refugees. She's done a brilliant job. Absolutely brilliant. Other people have done exactly the same thing. So I'm happy.
It's a different approach, though, isn't it, to campaigning, to have somebody like Yvette given, in a sense, a licence to lead on a very important issue, but not within the shadow cabinet.
Well, I think that's the nature of our political party now, is that where you've got someone who says, I don't want a formal role in that sense.
When it's workable in your
I think it is. I don't want a formal role in that sense, but what I want to do is I want to lead on this particular issue, then we'll support them. Caroline Flint has just done it on tax evasion, tax avoidance, where she secured an amendment to legislation. She did it off her own bat, and then we gave her as much support as we possibly could. Now, if people are willing to serve in that way, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They're making a positive contribution.
And, I mean, Tristram Hunt slightly notoriously found himself on a hit list, which I think you might have drawn. What was it? Well, that's what it was.
It wasn't a hit list. I tell you what it was. And I was furious about it, and that was justifiable anger from my point of view. And it was a good job you didn't see me at that point in time. What it was is a staffer in the campaign, because we were getting a bit of incoming flack from individual MPs, did a note of the various things that had been said about Jeremy Corbyn by different MPs, and then attached it to a press release without any permission whatsoever. And I was furious, because that was meant to be just an internal briefing, not to be used in that way. That then got translated. It wasn't a hit list. It never would be a hit list.
And just to be clear, therefore, Tristram doesn't have to worry about keeping his seat. You wouldn't be encouraging his members to deselect him?
No, I wouldn't.
And what about this issue of deselection? Because Jeremy was a bit equivocal about it.
I don't think he was. I think you misinterpreted.
Okay.
We've said, no, we're not supporting mandatory reselection. On the boundary commissions proposals, which I think are scandalous, I actually think they're not counting nearly 2.5 million people. We're going to fight it in Parliament, see if we can win there, if necessary, either in the Commons or the Lords. We're going to see if we can overturn it in the courts as well. If it goes through, the same rules will apply for the future as they apply now, which means sitting MPs will have the right to actually go into the shortlist and contest their seats. Now, that worked amicably in the past, and it should do now. The Chief Whip...
But the other issue, which is the one that the MPs fear, is that if they don't toe the Corbyn-McDonnell line, that you will encourage members to throw them out.
We don't want that. We want democratic debate in our party where you respect different views. We've got to recognise our tradition, and this is how we win elections. Our tradition is having a broad church, a left, right and centre, where you assemble a coalition, not just in the party, but right the way across the country as a result of that. And that's the way we'll go back into power.
And just to, as I say, cheer Tristram up, you're absolutely clear that if he wanted to put himself forward for the shadow cabinet, he would be a contender.
Yeah, of course. Of course. He's a fantastic advocate of policies. I'm reading one of his books at the moment about great cities. We need that sort of articulate expression of views.
Well, there we go. We've got an extra sale for Tristram Hunt. He'll be thrilled. Don't go away, because we've got a bit more from John McDonnell after the break. Well, back to Peston on Sunday. The great news is John McDonnell obviously means what he says about bygones being bygones, because he's still here. Now, Allegra, does our viewer believe Labour's unity message?
Well, there's actually a lot of shock out there that John McDonnell wouldn't retract the comment that Esther McVey, also in the room, was a stain on humanity. A couple of tweets just here. So the first one from the Deputy Political Editor of the Mail, John McDonnell describing Esther McVey as a stain on humanity, even though he's saying people have had enough of spin. And then another one here from Kevin Schofield at Political Black Home. How does saying a minister should be lynched tally with kinder, gentler politics? More of that maybe later. But let's just quickly look at Jeremy Corbyn's win yesterday. It was thumping. The problem for him, however, is that there are a few sections of the group, we're not being churlish, but room for improvement, where he perhaps needs to work harder. Let's look at them. So who did not vote for Corbyn? We have those people who voted Labour before 2015. We also have in Scotland a massive lead for Owen Smith up in Scotland. And then also people think that it's young hipsters that really love Jeremy Corbyn. Well, actually, in the 18 to 24-year-old bracket, Jeremy Corbyn has quite a lot of work to do. This is all according to YouGov. Robert.
Thanks, Allegra. If I could just pick up those YouGov survey results, and obviously, you can't assume they're completely accurate. Do you not believe they're right? Because obviously
they got it wrong before. They got it wrong before. I don't trust them.
Okay, so you think, because the bit of it that struck me was the Scotland, where you absolutely have to do better in Scotland.
I think Scotland's right. I think of all of those, I think Scotland's right.
And why aren't you?
Because in Scotland, well, in Scotland there hasn't been the surge of new membership and enthusiasm that we've had in the rest of the country, largely because a lot of the younger people and others went to the SNP. Even on the left went to the SNP. So it's going to take a time to win that back. But we're beginning to. It's interesting. This week, we won our first by-election in Scotland. It's from the SNP in Coatbridge. Elaine Smith, who used to be the local MSP, strong Corbyn supporter, ran a campaign there with the local pro-Corbyn candidate, and we won it back from the SNP. So we're beginning to see a gradual, I think, return, but it's going to take us a while.
Now, this is a slightly technical question, but it relates to the problem in Scotland. The NEC voted effectively for Kezia Dugdale to be the NEC representative.
And Carwyn from Wales.
That's right. But at yesterday's NEC meeting, there was an attempt to basically reopen that debate by Jeremy Corbyn, because he has a view that it should be members in Scotland who choose their NEC. Aren't you undermining Kezia Dugdale?
No, not at all. This is a technical thing that most people won't be particularly interested in, as you've said. But the idea of what Jeremy was saying is what we're trying to do is make sure if we're introducing democratic reforms, we introduce them all at once, and we introduce them after a fairly extensive debate, because we don't want people going back into their corners. And the issue around having the representative from Scotland and Wales, should it be the leader or should it be elected by the membership there or in some other form? Rather than bounce that through early, it would be better to put that into the overall discussion. But the members, members of the NEC took a different view, which is fair enough.
Okay, but on this issue of democratic reform, how soon will we know whether the method of choosing the shadow cabinet is going to change?
The National Executive, my understanding is, I'm not on the NEC, the National Executive decided they're going to have an away day. It was planned before the conference. Well, it'll be in a matter of weeks.
Right.
Then what usually happens is they'll look through a whole range of democratic reform proposals, come back with proposals. Some of those might be agreed with the NEC itself, or if necessary, we'll have a special rules conference. That's what we did before.
But so to be absolutely clear, however, there won't be a decision at this conference on changing...
No, not on an NEC recommendation. Anything can happen from the floor conference, but I don't think so, because the general view is you need to have a thorough discussion, wrap these all up, and then come back and have a proper decision.
So Parliament resumes on October the 10th. The shadow cabinet at that point will still be the shadow cabinet we've got. It's going to take longer to change the makeup of the shadow cabinet.
I think so, but there might be others who are saying that I want to do a particular role. If they want to come on board before that, that's fine. Or there might be other tiers of the administration. People want to come back and play a particular role. That's fine.
And just to be absolutely clear, do you think MPs though should have a role in choosing the shadow cabinet?
I'm open for a discussion on it. I'm open for a discussion about whether it's MPs and members, whether there's a balance of that, or whether there's other forms of that. What we don't want to do at this point in time is preempt anything. As I say...
So it's going to take weeks and months. So for the time being, Jeremy keeps his power to appoint the shadow cabinet.
It will remain status quo, and then we'll see how we go from there, Key thing now is to we've had it's been a hectic couple of months in the leadership campaign. We want to move beyond that. Members have made their decision. Labour MPs and the members of the Party Democrats, they'll accept that decision. We unite, make ourselves an effective opposition, prepare for government. We've got to demonstrate we're an alternative government. In the meantime, while these other discussions are going on, I'm hoping that individual members of the Parliamentary Labour Party will say, this is the role I want to play. I want to play it in this form, and I'm sure Jeremy will accommodate to that.
And just very briefly, because we're almost out of time, there's been a lot of talk of MPs like John Healey, Dan Jarvis, putting themselves forward for the shadow cabinet. Do you think it's possible that Jeremy Corbyn will appoint one or two of those sorts of people by October the 10th?
I think if people are coming forward and say, look, we want to play this particular role, there's a sense of urgency now because of the threat of a general election. I'm hoping people will come forward and Jeremy say, look, do it in this way, or whatever. We can accommodate people now in the meantime until the decision is made about which is the long-term process.
John McDonnell, thank you so much for coming in to see us today, and look forward to seeing you again before too long.
Very well.
All the best.